Mr. Chairman, I'd like to clarify a few other points. There are planning assumptions that have been used in 1994 and 2000, well, 4 through 7 and 2004 through 7 that were used to change the numbers. Those 28,812 parcels, they get exported to Excel. That's truth. That's facts. That's objective. Nobody changes that. That's the math. But what happens when it goes from there to there? Software happens that change the numbers dramatically. I call that agenda-driven data. Those 8 rules that planning used to change from those Excel files to then report the facts to the councilors, to the commissioners, back then and all the way up to the mid-2015 were never revealed to or approved by this board or any previous board. The prosecuting attorney's office has claimed they have, but they can't put their finger on one of those in Table 1 that they have. There is no record, and if they had been revealed, they would have been corrected long ago. When we finally reverse engineered those and find out what those really were, that changed the numbers that were reported to us, trust but verify, re-verified, and found out that, oh, those are not the numbers at all. In the private sector, you call that cooking the books, is where somehow before you get the numbers, some magic happens to them, agenda-driven data to determine a predetermined outcome. And it's a policy call. You don't allow staff or anybody else to change those numbers without the full knowledge and approval of those that are responsible for the accuracy of those numbers and for the informed decisions that we are required to make. So when we corrected those, after we identified them, we provided more realistic instead of theoretically possible. Instead, we had likely and realistic assumptions. We invited a third party, expert, that we wanted to evaluate and give us feedback. Compare A to B. Compare theirs to ours. But somehow that work never happened. That work got redefined. And the original A assumptions versus B never saw the light of day. They were never even scrutinized or analyzed at all. Rubber stamped, and that's what this does. If we repeal the column B, they automatically rubber stamping column A, which is the original assumptions that never saw the light of day, never any scrutiny or analyzing. In fact, the Thorpe report that did provide, that did address these, found the first 2 most important assumptions valid, and they actually pointed out that the first assumption was actually illegal, that the planning staff has been using, counting lots that are legally not countable. That's still happening today. And the numbers published in the DSEIS use those numbers based on that fallacy. So when the A to B comparison was to be made, A got automatically rubber stamped without even any consideration. B, we had provided to the consultant, at least to staff, the proofs from the records, from the data that says these are the arguments for them, and here's the data, and here's all the background, show your work. They never even considered it. They didn't even look at it. Instead, what they did is they looked at B and said, you know, let's try to invalidate that because somehow when I called our consultant, they said, I'm not allowed to talk to you. They could only talk with staff. And staff had their ear. And the agenda was to invalidate our assumptions, the people's assumptions, the private property rights assumptions, and not even consider the comparison at all. So when we look at the comparison, you think, oh, the Thorpe report, you know, it says they're invalid.
Can you summarize, kind of?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I will summarize. The bottom line is full disclosure, transparency, honesty, math works. The ability for us to solve problems should be an objective process, and you don't somehow change the numbers to somehow get a predetermined outcome. The last point is that there's an excuse here that's being made that somehow we just can't respect the private property rights of the rural citizens, which is defined as flexibility and options that belong to you. We're going to take those away from you. To me, that is taking your private property rights away. What do you have if you don't have that? That somehow that's the fault of the state, that the GMA requires us to do this. False. The GMA won in 2004 through 2007. We just didn't implement it right here in Clark County. The GMA is not at fault. We are compliant if we approve what we've already approved here, alternative 4, and we would be non-compliant, and you'll find out in the courts if you defend your private property rights, and I'll join with you on that, if we don't respect the private property rights, which is also one of the goals of the GMA. So GMA is not a problem. It is our implementation that's a problem. And I haven't heard experts on the other side. I've heard laymen on the other side. But the experts tell us one clear thing. PUD, water, they're clear. They are recognized as the experts. Nobody's countering theirs that are experts. Technical Advisory Committee for Septic, they are the experts. Nobody's countering that are experts. So on each of these things, I would like to hear experts that can somehow refute the experts. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.